My guest in this episode of Suds Search is the brilliant and engaging Ned Poulter. Ned is the founder and CEO of Polestar Digital. He has a wide breadth of digital marketing knowledge, but has a well-earned reputation as one of the leading experts in the world on paid social. Ned is a well-known conference speaker, writer, and instructor. He has presented at just about every big industry conference in Europe, including Ungagged London, inOrbit, SearchLeeds, and Brighton SEO, where he frequently offers a must-see training course. Ned's agency has had an amazing run in 2020, winning numerous awards. A short list of the award shows that honored Polestar Digital in 2020 includes the UK Social Media Awards, the 2020 Global Marketing Awards, the UK Digital Growth Awards, and the European Agency Awards, where they won twice. At the time we filmed our episode, Polestar Digital had won 11 industry awards. I start our conversation by asking Ned about this truly extraordinary haul of awards and a little about the specific campaigns that earned Polestar Digital these honors. Ned is also the co-founder of Neverspoons. Neverspoons helps its users find a pint from a local independent pub or bar. Once Neverspoons launched, the app went totally viral. The app has a really interesting backstory. During our discussion, I asked Ned all about Neverspoons and how they developed their massive following. Join me for a really interesting interview with Ned Poulter. We'll chat about what tools Facebook has to translate ads into foreign languages, the challenges small businesses face to get design resources, and we'll talk a little bit about his fondness for sushi boats. Hi, Ned.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, it's good to speak to you.
Good to speak with you. How's everything going?
Oh, as well as it can do in this crazy year that we've been having.
Tell me about it. So are you a guitarist? I see everything in the background there, or else you just really like it as an art piece? I don't know.
It's probably more the latter than the former, to be honest. I do play. I don't do them justice, but yeah, I think they look pretty good on the wall. So
no, I love it. So all right, well, I think I want to see. Greg said he might pop in and say hi, so I'm going to Slack him real quick.
Amazing.
And we'll see if not, we'll officially get rolling here. But so what time of day is it there?
It's 9 p.m.
All right, so good time for you to be drinking beer.
Absolutely, yeah. I've already had a couple. Got myself warmed up.
You'll be socially lubricated. I like it. So
absolutely, yeah.
Well, let's get this out of the way. I have to do for the thumbnail. I have to do a toast, and so I'm drinking a Dovetail. Dovetail is this brewery. I drink it a lot. It's right out the front door of our office. It's one of my favorite places, and
cool.
They do a lot of German style beers. So this is a Hefeweizen from there.
I love a Hefeweizen. I am on a Nakota Session IPA, a hazy IPA. So,
wow,
and this is actually from a Welsh brewery. I was bought it by a friend of mine, which is good. It's a local brewery from where he's from a place callll Llandudno.
I'm not going to try it.
Here he is.
I usually don't pop in for these, but I had to say hey because we haven't hung out in forever.
It's been way too long, hasn't it? How you doing, buddy?
I gave him a good kind of so I don't know if you've seen the episodes before, but at the end there's always like the final segment is I give him like a 1 or 2 word phrase or a question with no context whatsoever. So I gave him a good
So I don't really know what I'm asking in these things, but I know what I'm asking. I don't know what any context to it is. So
okay.
And this one's a fun one, so it'll be good.
I'm terrified by it. That sounds very ominous.
So it's looking like hopefully we get vaccines and shit. So maybe by like next fall we'll be back at it. You know.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm kind of, yeah. I don't want to hang too much on it. Greg, Mark, for your information, we were going to get married this year on 3 separate occasions, which have not happened, me and my fiance.
So what are you guys doing now? Are you just waiting to see what happens with the virus?
Yeah. we kind of backed down because we were like, look, the virus is winning, so let's just stop trying.
Right.
And actually we kind of put it on hold. It was a good thing, to be honest. We're like genuine realists, and we were just like, look, this is the situation. It's obviously sad, but let's kind of just focus on the good parts of that. So we actually had on, because we were in full UK lockdown on our wedding day, which is 15th of May, the first wedding day. Heather, my partner, she had ordered a dress off eBay. It wasn't the dress because she actually chose the dress as part of you guys. Oh, what's the? I've totally forgotten the name of the show. She basically went on TV to pick the dress.
Say yes to the dress.
Say yes to the dress. That's it. Yeah. So it was
wife watches that.
Yeah. So she went. She was on TV and she picked the dress, but she bought like a $100 one off eBay, which she wore all day. So we walked into town and she had a full dress on and everything, which was really cool. But yeah, it's been a strange year.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a hard one because I would like to congratulate you on being engaged, and then it's like that's kind of a bummer that you've been three shots at it. So
yeah,
won't be too much longer now, I think. So
no, it's one of those.
So
I gotta bail. I got shit to do. I just wanted to pop in and say hey.
Hey, no problem, Greg.
Greg, thanks
Good
for coming
seeing
on.
you, but
Yeah, tell her I said hey too.
absolutely, man.
All right.
Same to Ashley as well.
Will do. See ya.
See ya.
Take it easy. Yeah, he's never done that before, but I could tell, like, he's like, man, I usually see Ned twice a year or 3 times a year at all these conferences. We go out to dinner.
Yeah.
He's my buddy. I never get to see him. And I was like, well, why don't you pop on and say hi before we get going?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's so cool.
So, all right. So I feel like the beer part of this show, I always feel like I have to cover with people. So it's about like where I am in Chicago. I told you there's a brewery right outside my front door. There's also a brewery outside my back door, and there's breweries up and down this strip. So it's called Malt Row.
Nice.
And so it's all kind of digital marketing agencies and breweries in some houses. That's about it.
Amazing.
It started out as a show about this place, and it would just be me and somebody from Chicago in the brewery having a beer and like having a hangout. Like we're just talking about stuff, and that was going along great. And then the COVID happened, and I had no show anymore. And so Greg in his wisdom said, this is actually an opportunity. You can go on Zoom. You can take this show nationally and internationally and talk to all my buddies. So that's the beer part of it. You've got a beer, so I don't think I'm gonna have to explain it too much more to you than that.
Sure.
Otherwise, I've got some prepared questions. If we get into something that sounds interesting, I'll just first thing I should probably turn off my Slack because I always forget that. And if there's something though that gets interesting, we'll just kind of totally take a path the other way.
A tangent.
Prepared questions. Yeah.
That's absolutely cool with me. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let me start it over again. I'll introduce you and we'll go from there. All right.
Sounds good, man.
Ned Poulter, welcome. Let me start this all the way over. I haven't had 2 beers before I came on here. Too. I'm a little tongue-tied. So. All right. Ned Poulter, welcome to Suds Search. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you. 2020 has been a pretty amazing year for your agency. You've won numerous awards. You've been shortlisted for others. I wonder if you could tell our audience a little bit about the experience of winning an award and maybe some of the examples of how the case studies that you used to win those.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really has actually. It's kind of it's been a strange year and one which we've all kind of found ourselves with a little extra time on our hands, probably safe to say. And so, one of the things that, one of the things we're really passionate about at Polestar is doing award-winning work, doing really recognition-worthy work. I poured a lot of effort into creating the most badass of award entries that I could, and I just got it out there. So and it's honestly it's been pretty breathtaking. We won 2 awards as an agency: Best Small Digital Agency and Best Social Media Campaign 2 years ago. And we've been entering kind of since then. And this year we've had 11 at my last count, which include, there's some pretty massive highlights, but Best Global Consultant at the Global Digital Excellence Awards. We just picked up actually just last month, we won Best Biddable Agency in Europe at the European agency awards, which is fantastic. And then most of the other awards have all been centered around paid social, which is chiefly what we offer at Polestar Digital. So yeah, it's kind of, there's some really big ones in there, such as like best long-term strategic use of social media, which is a really important one for me because I work with clients that we've got relationships for many years with, and we've kind of come on a journey together, and to get recognized for something like that, you can't just fluke something like those kind of awards. That's you've really got to be in it for the long haul, right?
What do the clients say? So like that you usually have a campaign that you're putting up for the award.
Sure.
And then if that client is if that campaign, is the client also flattered to have been the case study for the award, or are they nonplussed about the whole thing?
No, I mean, so the particular client is actually a legal firm. They're based, they're about 20 miles from here, but they have an office in Manchester as well in the UK. And yeah, I work really closely with them. The way Polestar, I work with all our clients is I really kind of work in a partnership model. So I very much feel like I'm part of the team, and they were actually very involved in kind of preparing everything, because a lot of it involved, it was really ROI driven. So I needed a lot of financial data, which they were prepared to kind of share with me, which I can then interpret and put it into the award. So given that I've judged at awards as well, like I know what a good award entry looks like, but it's a tough old world out there. Because I mean, Polestar is actually, just for clarification, just little old me as well. So it is a one-man agency, and to be up against, I mean, some buddies of mine, but there's like 120 strong agency out of Berlin who I kept coming up against, and I know Bastian who runs it, and yeah, that was
okay, sure,
that was yeah. So you know Bastian, so yeah, it was pretty kind of crazy to be up against them, but really flattering at the same time. So, and we beat them a few times too.
Very good. Well, congratulations! It's very exciting. You said it. I have a lot of questions about paid social. I want to ask you. You are one of the leading experts in the world. One of the things that I think about a lot, so we work with a lot of small and medium businesses, and what always gets left out, they may even have like an in-house writer, they don't have like the design resource. They're not very good at the creative part of it. Do you have any tips for, I don't know, either how to do this on a budget or how to get people to prioritize creative more?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting you brought that up, because actually creative is like, I know with a lot of the conversations when we talk about paid social, we're predominantly talking about Facebook and Instagram ads, right? Yeah. But yeah, creative is the thing that everyone this year has noticed can get you a blockbuster campaign versus a bang average campaign. But of course, the difficulty, like you said, you work with a lot of small, medium businesses, and I work with businesses across the whole spectrum, from kind of major international organizations right down to smaller businesses. And yeah, it's difficult because they don't have a design resource, right? And I'm an agency of one. I'm not a designer. I have no background in design. I have an eye for design, but it's one of the conversations I have like right up front with clients, is that I am not a designer. I have designers that I can pull on, but actually quite quickly, it means that we have to address that. How do we get great creative that is going to be a thumb-stopping creative, we call it, right? So
thumb-stopping, that's
thumb-stopping creative, yeah. So and you've got to do it on a budget, right? Because you're going with people that maybe have, I don't know, $5,000 a month budget, and that might be even quite high to some of the smaller businesses. But they can't go and get a creative agency on board, because that's going to blow that budget straight out of the water. So my tips are pretty obvious, to be honest. They two things: smartphone. Most decent smartphones, which people will have in their pocket, record in 4K now. So video content can be done really well. You can get a gyro, which obviously just gives it that professional kind of ability to shoot things so it doesn't actually look like mom and pop's holding it, kind of thing. But Canva as well, like there's so many different tools on there, but Canva I don't know if you know the background of Canva actually, but it's kind of a fascinating story. It's because it's headquartered out of Western Australia,
Okay.
which is really strange. But the founder, and I forget her name now, but yeah, she basically used to use. Do you remember Microsoft Publisher back in the day?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So she realized that kind of publishing software was, especially licensed publishing software, just didn't really work. Yeah. So had this kind of dream of building a browser-based version of it, and that is Canva. And I mean, it's a hugely like easy to use platform. I know my way around Illustrator and Photoshop, but they have just such a high barrier to entry to learn, right? You need like a bachelor's just in Photoshop to use it. But
Right.
a lot of the stuff that you can achieve, you can do via Canva, and they've got a very generous free tier. And they kind of layer in different features, including now you can actually create video on it. So they've started to bring video into the platform, and yeah, so I wish I'd give you some kind of top secret trick of the trade, but no, Canva you could do an awful lot with. And I think it's definitely worthwhile investing in your creative, but I think you can achieve quite a lot with quite a basic level of kind of equipment or free tools, as it were.
Yeah, just a smartphone and Canva. I think that's all it takes to get started.
Sure.
You know, I love this idea of thumb stopping content, and I wonder if you could help me with this. There's a lot of the paid social gurus or things you'll read. They'll be like, you need to make a compelling ad.
Yes.
And you go, well, that's great. That's very subjective.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know. Like, I think maybe you know it when you see it. Do you have any ground rules or any like rule of thumb that you have for what makes a compelling video ad?
So one of the thing is most of the tactics and the tips and tricks when it comes to paid social aren't anything to do with digital marketing. They're just to do with people, right? And psychology.
Yeah.
So like sell the benefits is a massive one. So don't sell a thing, sell the benefits. Tell them what it's going to do for them rather than, oh, it's the best and the shiniest and the most expensive, whatever it is. Tell it how it's going to make their life easier. Literally tell them, because people understand that. And on social, the really powerful thing about social media is we can capture people at the very, very top of the funnel that are just flicking away, kind of just browsing sitting on the sofa, or I don't know, they're kind of on their lunch break or whatever, and they're flicking, and you've got to capture people's attention. But the way that you can do that is to speak to them as humans. Like we tend to get really caught up in the whole digital marketing and marketing world of overthinking things and kind of pontificating over really intelligent theories and stuff. But actually, your target audience are people. So if you can speak and communicate with people, then the trick's all in that. there's no kind of hidden art to it, even though a lot of people will try and tell you that there is.
Oh, I love it. So the other thing I could think about with you mentioned you work with some very large businesses.
Yeah.
One thing I always wanted to ask European digital marketer.
Yeah.
In America, like I'm in Chicago, Greg's in Texas, we both speak the exact same language. Now you're in Europe,
Yeah.
there's like a countless amount of languages you have to take advantage of.
Yeah.
How do you create ads, or does Facebook do anything to make that process easier for you? Where you're in the UK, you can make an ad and it could show up in Germany in German.
So yeah, Facebook have made the tools for it. Whether they work or not is up for debate. So yeah, I mean, I do run foreign language campaigns for clients. I think one of the big things, actually, again, it's more about a feature that people tend to miss off an awful lot, but capturing your videos. People by default don't have their videos just playing on social media, right? So it's so obvious, and there's a ton of tools out there that you can do it very cheap or free, like otter.ai, I think it is like a transcription tool. There's Lumen 5 is a great tool, actually, I picked up when I was over in the States at, I think, like one of the last big digital marketing conferences, which was social media social media marketing world down in San Diego in February. So we were literally in the States when all this kind of closed down. And yeah, and I came across Lumen 5, which is a great tool, which I should have mentioned on the creative thing, actually, which super affordable. But what you can do is you can input text content and it can create video for you. So you can use a lot of stock videos, but you can turn what may be a blog post or a press release or whatever into video that you can then obviously utilize on your social platforms. And it's a really easy process. And especially if you're speaking to younger demographics, they kind of want things spoken at them, right? So video is the way to go. So yeah, so I like, they're really, really powerful things. But captions are a really important thing. But yeah, navigating language, any automated translations, if you want a seriously good campaign, it just isn't going to work. So the big organizations that I do work with, we've always worked with local teams, and it is on the ground and it is built with that market in mind rather than just letting the bots do the work, right? So
yeah, I'd say there's so many things you Europeans have to deal with GDPR, or like, what is that one? All these regulations.
The one. So I actually had a call with my lawyer earlier on today, who's awesome, by the way. We spend about 70% of our calls talking about geeky stuff like Star Wars and Transformers and Marvel versus DC.
Okay, now I understand why you and Greg are such good friends.
Absolutely, yeah. Greg would get on with my lawyer very well. We spend about 70% of our calls talking about that, about 30% actually talking about business, right? But we were actually talking through this because not only do we have that, and I told myself on the way home today, I was like, I don't want to get political about this, but just to touch on it, a lot of Europeans would probably say that people from Britain don't really speak the same language because of everything that's happened over the last 5 years, right? So we are going backwards and it's all a bit crazy. But yeah, so one of the things that I was addressing is, how do my contracts stand up with my international clients, given that we are literally on like a 4-week countdown now to all of our laws potentially being kind of void and changing. So GDPR is a big one. The fabulously named PECR, PECR, which
it's not called PECR.
It's called PECR. Yeah, that one sticks right in the memory. So that and the cookie law, the broader kind of ICO, the Information Communications Officer in the UK. These are the kind of powers that be, and it's all a bit strange because I actually really support the kind of privacy of data and our data rights. I'm quite pro that. But in execution, it is a mess because you've just got all these differing regional laws. A lot of them aren't laws as such. They've been rolling out regulations, but whether or not it would apply to a lot of businesses is really up for debate. So it's kind of the most complex and confusing realm out there, which obviously really affects us working in digital.
So what's the bottom line though? Did your attorney say your contracts are bulletproof and you let's get back to talking about Star Wars, or what?
Yeah, pretty much. Ostensibly the movement that we're seeing across the web, actually, and I do think, I mean, I work with clients in the States as well, but I know there is a slightly more liberal take on it there. But yeah, the general trend in general is that people are moving to a more private web. Apple are obviously kind of really pushing everything in that direction. So when they're kind of, I wouldn't say leading the charge, but they're pushing, most like cash rich company in the world are doing it, people are going to kind of fall in line, right? So it's an interesting one. But yeah, in terms of our contracts, yeah, we're cool.
Good. Well, good.
I'm glad to say, but it does mean actually we're probably going to have to redraft them in the new year to kind of account for the changes that may have made, which we still don't know what they're going to be. So it's fun times.
Oh my gosh. Well, I before I let you go, I want to get a couple of really good use cases. I want to encourage people to go to your website.
Absolutely.
And look at some of these look at some of the case studies or the Our Work section. You have some of these amazing, like, I don't know, like almost 5,000% return on ad spend campaigns. To do that, I would imagine you have to really, like, obviously you have to really limit ad waste.
Yeah,
This is a topic that's really common in paid search, and I've never really asked a paid social person.
Yeah.
What are the common ways people are wasting money? What are the common causes for ad waste in paid social?
The most common is not having the correct objective in the first place.
Wow.
So I do an awful lot of training when it comes to paid social. That's I do training. That's how I know Greg, and we've trained at similar conferences and stuff. But one of the sayings that I have is start with the objective in mind. A lot of people, I mentioned this earlier on, but an awful lot of people just unnecessarily overcomplicate it. When if you talk about old school marketing is one of my sections when I do training, and we get out the conversion funnel and we talk about that. And it's when I put that in front of people and I'm like, right, okay, so we need to bring people in the top of funnel. That's our awareness stage. We've got to get them to consider our product or our service. And then we're kind of trying to bring those people down towards the conversion phase. And I say that to everyone. Everyone nods along. Everyone totally understands. And then I literally show them Facebook Ad Manager. When you click Create Campaign and you pick from awareness, consideration, or conversion, and I'm like, this is how they built the campaign. This is how they built the entire infrastructure of the Ad Manager, right? So don't overcomplicate it. But yeah, too many times I see people that are trying, and there are a few that are kind of exceptions to the rule, because there are like video views actually sits under the consideration phase in the setup, but that can be used top of funnel, right? Because you're optimizing for that. But yeah, people are necessarily trying to optimize for an outcome that doesn't even really match what they want. So, and that works both ways actually, which is the kind of curious thing with paid social, as opposed to with PPC, where PPC, you go, okay, so I want to bid on these keywords, on these match types. I don't want to appear for these, right? It's less easy to do that when you're working on an awareness campaign and you're going quite broad anyway. But I think the main thing is just focusing on the intent of what you want the action of the user to be, and optimizing towards that. Ultimately, Facebook in particular is set up all about that. And a lot of my kind of hands-on optimization work has been around letting Facebook do a lot of the heavy lifting, which I used to hate doing because it's the whole black box solution.
I've heard this recommendation from other people. It says, let Facebook do its thing and you'll be happier.
There's genuinely the whole stabilization effect in the learning phase is the whole 48 to 72 hours after you make a major change to a campaign, leave it. Just leave it. And it's really hard because you get a lot of people that work in paid search and they tinker, right? They go and tweak this and they tweak that, and they'll like 20 cents increase the bid here or a percentage downweight the bid here because it's a certain hour of a certain day.
It's true. Like if you're from a paid search background, you don't feel like you're doing your job if you're not like tinkering all the time, especially in the first 48 hours. Yeah. It's
kind of like to use probably a pretty crappy analogy. It's like tuning a race car, right? Like if you're a paid search specialist, you are tuning absolutely everything, and you know all the levels, you know the numbers that you need to hit. With paid social, it's like someone presenting you this like auto driving race car, and you just having to go, right, okay, as long as I know what the track looks like and the team wants, we need to just trust it here. We just need to get in and go.
Wow. Well, yeah. I love it. Well, this is a good time to transition. There's, as we're sitting here, local pubs and restaurants are getting destroyed, and it's really a sad thing for us around here. You are an entrepreneur. You started an app with this cause in mind. Tell us about the app and maybe the backstory of how you even came to be an app owner.
Yeah, so real strange one. Kind of a thirst for always developing new things. Like I've got a notebook that is chock-a-block full of crazy, wacky ideas, some of which I think are great. aren't great when I tell people, some of which just sit there for a long time. Others, everyone's had this, right? Especially if you work in our kind of field. You go, you have an idea for something, and then you see it come into real life, and you're like, I thought of that. But of course, you didn't put it into practice. So, so Neverspoons is the name of the app. And it was a proper bedroom lockdown project between myself and a friend of mine, Shane. I know Shane through the industry, actually. We actually met drinking, and we still have great times drinking together, now via webcam. But it's kind of a big part of kind of, like, we enjoy going out. We love independent places. We love pubs. We love our drink as well, which is why it's great being on this this show. But so Neverspoons was founded to try and help with everything that's going on in the lockdowns that we've been through in the UK and obviously in a lot of the world. One of the things that I think is like the real kind of beating heart of the UK, I know you guys have great ones over there in the US as well, but is the pub, the British pub. And we're just seeing this horrible situation where governments are kind of locking businesses down. They are providing financial support, but not very much. We've got this crazy regional thing going on in the UK where certain regions are allowed to open, others aren't. And obviously big chains with the benefit of economies of scale can digest those costs to a point. But a lot of these places are independently owned, independently run, and they're run by business owners like yourself and me. And if they can't open their doors and they can't serve food or drinks, they can't make money, right? So,
and those are the places you want to go. You don't want to go to the chain. You want to go to the unique place that's only in your town. And,
exactly. That's got a heart and a soul, and a landlord or a landlady who's been there for however many years and knows your dad and stuff like that. Like it's kind of like an aunt or an uncle, right? So we wanted to try and do something with the skills that we had, and this was kind of the whole project, right? We were like, we've obviously been working in the industry for a long time now. Shane is actually a web developer. He's never built an app before, but he loves playing with newer technologies, and he's playing a lot with React Native, which effectively you can build apps with. And so we were just talking, and he had this idea called Neverspoons. Now, this probably doesn't translate too well, but there is a chain in the UK called Wetherspoons, which is kind of... You'd find yourself in there by accident, because it's basically like someone took the British pub and made like a McDonald's version of it. It's you wouldn't know really that it's kind of a chain, but they're interesting areas to go. Let's put it that way. But they have this tyrant of an owner who is like very politicized, incredibly conservative, and he's just not a nice guy at all. And right when lockdown happened, there was a film of him speaking to I think there's 14,000 employees across the UK, effectively saying that they shouldn't wait around for the pubs to open. They should go and get jobs elsewhere, which is kind of crazy. And so he's a very controversial figure that is not very well liked at all. And we thought, let's make an app that when you're on the high street, when things open back up, we launched it on the day where everything opened back up on July the 4th, actually, so it's Independence Day. And we said, let's create an app where if you're on the high street, you want to go for a beer, you can open up the app, it will show you where you are, it will show you the places near to you to go, and if one of those is Wetherspoons, you can click on it and it will tell you all the alternatives that are independents that you can go to that are near it. So and it is really genuinely on that basis of when we kind of live in this crazy world where a lot of the time we don't actually see who's on the end of a transaction, especially with card-based transaction, online transactions. You're not buying from local stores anymore, and I personally do wherever I can try and support local. And I think it's really important that we all do. But what we found out through this journey that we've been on is that a lot of people are similar minded to that. And actually they don't consider it. So with technology, we're able to bridge that gap where they go, okay, you're going to go out and spend $6-7 on a beer. Just consider how much more that $6-7 is going to mean to a place that's had to shut its doors for 3-4 months. They've had to make bills. They've had to pay rent. They've scraped by. That customer is going to mean so much more to them than it is to another big chain that's kind of faceless, and they've got all of these kind of pubs in all of the towns across the UK.
I love it. And the best news about this is that the app is taking off. It's got thousands and thousands of downloads. It's gone viral. What are the stats like today as we are drinking today?
So as we're drinking today, so it did absolutely explode when we launched it. There was no genius behind it. It's good timing and slightly controversial messaging, right? So it's old school tactics applied in a kind of modern context. But it absolutely blew up. We had over 70,000 downloads of the app. We only managed to launch it on the Google Play Store because our first venture into launching an app, we realized that Apple have pretty high walls around their walled garden now. So their threshold was pretty hard to get it on. Not to mention, we figured out that it was because they were testing the app based out of California. We had to apparently put on the submission to test it from the UK. So that took a couple of months to figure out. About 70,000 downloads in a matter of weeks. I think it was under 2 weeks we reached that. The BBC picked it up. We were interviewed on BBC Radio 5 Live. We were all over the papers and stuff. And it was crazy. And one of the big things, and the main things actually, to power the app was it's all about data, right? We needed people to actually submit the pubs to power the database that we were building behind it. And we totally bootstrapped it. Google Forms linked to a Google Google Sheets file, like as free. Like we had no budget for it. And at one point, at its height, we were getting over 1 pub submission every second. So that was crazy. So we're up to about 40,000 in the database now, which is pretty awesome. All across the UK. Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, all across England as well. So, but yeah, as it stands, we obviously naturally saw that trail off a little bit while we were trying to figure out how to still build apps and stuff and improve the database and do a lot of the more kind of make it slightly more robust. Because let's be honest, we didn't know what we're doing. We still don't, but that's part of the fun.
That is part of the fun. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And so now we're sitting pretty at about 37,000 active downloads. So we've lost about 45% of our user base on Google. I haven't actually checked Apple for a while. I think I've still got a bit of a bad taste in my mouth because they took so long to approve it. But yeah, we've kind of been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, including like building our own API. We've got it set up on AWS servers. A lot of the stuff, which again has been a very steep learning curve, but really fun. So it's really built for scale and it's super quick now. And we're just having fun with it, but also trying to incorporate things that people have said, hey, it'd be really cool if it did stuff like you could filter by places that serve vegan food or people that are disabled friendly, or places that are dog friendly. A lot of things which honestly we hadn't even thought about. And one of the latest features, we have our catch-up calls on a Wednesday evening. So yesterday we were catching up with the team, and one of the features that we built in is what tier you are in. So we have this regional tier structure in the UK, which dictates what types of businesses are open. And that changes based on the principality, just to make things more confusing. So if you're in Wales, they've got different rules to England. If you're in Scotland, they've got different rules to Northern Ireland. So we have layered in, based off an address lookup, what tier those are in and what rules that dictates. Because an awful lot of the places in the strictest level of tier, which is tier 3, which is what we're in at the moment in Manchester. Businesses such as independent pubs can serve takeout. So they can actually still trade if they so want to. So one of the things we want to do is obviously make sure that we can champion these places that are actually still trying to turn trade, but they're going to have to do it surrounding the government guidelines, like doing takeout. So yeah, so it's fun, but we're just trying to make it as useful as possible and try and do the right thing. Really.
So, I love it. Well, Neverspoons, we'll have to promote it as best we can here in the show notes. So, all right. Well, this is everybody's favorite part of the interview, where Greg gives me a question with no context, and I want to see how this one goes. Today, he sent me 2 words in Slack: sushi boat. And I know nothing more.
Sushi boat. Amazing. So this is, we mentioned actually, so Greg, I've obviously met through various conferences and training. So he comes over to the UK quite a lot. I can't remember I think it was in the UK that I first met him, but we've spoken Vegas together at conferences out there, and we tend to bump into each other several times a year, which is great. And he was actually over for Brighton SEO, which is, I know for sure it's the biggest digital marketing conference in the UK. I think it's the biggest in Europe. It's huge, which is great, actually. There's a real cool story there. It started, their motto is it started in a room above a pub. It literally did. The guy, Kelvin, is a good friend of mine. I've been going for like 10, 11 years or so. And now it's huge. There's like thousands of people that go. And Greg normally rocks the stage on one of the days, but he's normally in town for that. And yeah, we've made a bit of a tradition the day before to go. There's a great sushi place, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of it actually, but they do fantastic sushi. And of course you can have it served on a wooden boat, which we normally opt for. And we normally get a lot of the speakers and the trainers together. So, it's a bit of a ritual now, like a pre-conference ritual, but it's making me feel all nostalgic now because it feels like so long since you've done it. But yeah, it's one of those great things actually, which I love about our industry, and like we're chatting, I know a lot of it's kind of shifted to virtual meetups now, but it's something that I just love people. I mentioned it earlier on, like marketing's a people business. Just you strip away all the complexities and that's all it is. And I get my energy from other people, and I love the fact that we are such like a supportive network of people in the digital marketing industry. For the most part, there's some bad eggs, but and obviously with conferences and teaching and learning, everything that comes with that is a really special thing, especially because you cross all these international borders. You learn all crazy customs. Like I mistakenly one time took Greg for a steak, and he looked at it like someone had served his starter because he's used to Texan steaks. And he was like, this is literally like the leftovers of a steak in Texas. So, but then also agreed that it was really tasty. So yeah, all of those kind of crazy adventures that we find ourselves on, all powered by this crazy thing that's the internet and digital marketing.
Oh, well, it's something to look forward to. Hopefully in 2021, Ned, we'll be able to get together in person and have a pint and maybe a boat of sushi. I think that sounds like a plan.
Great. Yeah, and actually one thing I will guiltily admit to, but I have never been to Chicago, and it is very up there on my list of places to go. So I might find myself there.
We could feed you all kinds of unhealthy food. So deep dish pizza and Italian beef and Chicago hot dogs. It's good.
It sounds dreamy. Yeah.
Come when it's warm. Don't come like right around now is not the time to be here, but
yeah, it's a bit like Manchester, to be honest. Yeah, it's not the time to visit here. Yeah, we do rain really good in Manchester.
Well, Ned, thanks so much for coming on. This was really fun, and yeah, we could have talked for another hour. I feel like I told you I have these prepared questions. I have like 20 on my board here that I could have kept going through. So maybe we'll have you on again here in the next year. And in the meantime, keep playing those guitars. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you keep drinking that beer, Mark.
All right, Ned, take care.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.